Okay, let's get started. Something down more up. Okay. Kuf Yud Gimel. Good base. Okay. So the last thing we were discussing is the second Tana brought 5 reasons how you know that the husband yarshes the wife. So the first we had V'yarash I saw, Malamet Baal Yarish her, but she's not Yarish him. But Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Shmuel brought 5 different psukim that show that a husband yarshins his wife. And we left off after we got to all the 5 psukim, and the Gemara goes through why is it that you need each of the 5 psukim. So we have 2 assays and a lav. So there's 3 psukim where it talks about which is an assay. Then there were 2 loisisais. So the Gemara said one maybe could be for the ben yarshining, and that's how the property will go from one shevet to a different shevet, and the other one would be speaking when the husband yarshins. So that's going on. Maybe it's lav or lav b'shnei lavin in the say, so you don't have a raya. Then the Gemara says, and you don't have a raya from Elazar ben Aaron, because maybe by Elazar ben Aaron he yarshin from his mother, and then by Yair as well, maybe he yarshin from his mother. So you don't have any rayas. So the Gemara slugged up all of the rayas that you would have from the psukim until the Gemara says in Kain Trey Kroy Lomeli, why would we need 2 psukim in Novi that impart the same idea that a son yarshins? It must be one of them means that either Yair yarshined it from his wife, or Pincha yarshined it from his wife. That's the end of the Gemara. Now we have a kasha from our Papa. Omer Papa la Abaye. So Papa challenge Abaye. Mimai Dilma Emelach Baal lo yoris. Maybe the Baal doesn't yarshin at all. The Kroy. What about these 2 psukim? It's besibas abein. It's all referring to if the Yerusha will go from Shevet to Shevet because the son will yarshin, and of course the son is the same Shevet as his father. Kedishanina, v'yair de Zavan Mizban, and maybe you're bought it. Or Pinchas Nami de Zavan Mizban, and maybe Pinchas bought it. So who said it's Yerusha at all? Maybe there's no Yerusha here at all. Maybe both those cases are referring to a purchase. So then you don't even have a rayas of your papa from these psukim that a son is Yerusha mother, and he could be Mesav Nachla. Maybe in each of these 2 cases they purchased it from a third party. Omer late. So Abaye responded, Pinchas de Zovan Mizban loy motzisa. You can't say that Pinchas bought a property and that's the property that he buried his father in. If he bought it, it was a ste'achuza, then it will go back to its original owner, Kam Yovel. V'nimta, and it'll come out that tzaddik cover bekever she'einu shaloi. It's not respectful that a tzaddik should be buried in someone else's nachla, someone else's property. The family kever should always remain in the ownership of the family, and that wouldn't have been possible. So Pinchas would not have buried his father in a property that ultimately would return back to the original owner. Ella, what are you going to have to say? How did Pinchas acquire this field? If you want to say he didn't yarshin it from his mother, or he didn't yarshin it from his wife, you'll have to say the naflalei mistei charamim. He got it from mistei charamim, meaning someone made this sadach chayim, and that goes to the kahanim, or someone was makdish estechusa, and he wasn't pointed, and then Yovel came. So there it goes to the kahanim. Zok Gemara Amar Baye, soif, hakamas akre nachlo mishifted the ima l'shifted the ab. Now there's 2 mahalchim to this Gemara. We're going to learn it like the Rashbam, but if you would read the words that I just read, even if you didn't know what they meant, you would assume that Abaye is asking now a kash on her papa, and he's saying Avadu Yavaraya because soif hakamas akre nachlo mishifted the ima l'shifted the ab. That's the pashut how the Gemara would flow, that's what would be happening at this step. Zokter Eshpam, that's not what's happening. This is a new thing, and Abaye is just clearing a shaila. He says at the end of the day, because of the cases of like Sisa of Nachla, because of those psukim, so what happened was, we know what happened was is Tzolov married a woman who was not from a Shevet. How do we know that he married a woman that was not from a Shevet? Because it says that the Chol Basi Reshish Nachla Mima Toish B'nei Yisrael, right? That's how we learned that there's two. The Gemara asked on Kufir Aleph Amud Aleph, how could you yash from two Shvatim? It must be that your father was from one Shevet and your mother was from the other Shevet. So that's what we're going to have to say is the case of B'nai Slavchad. So they are yarshening from their mother and from their father, right? Now, once they yarshen it, so Abai said soif, even if the Baal doesn't yarshen his wife, so even if the B'nai Slavchad, even if they wouldn't be yarshened by their husband, soif v'kamasakra nachla mishifta the ima l'shifta the abba, because it's going to the daughters, and the daughters are also the shevet abba. Or even if Tzolofchad's daughters, even if Tzolofchad's husbands wouldn't yarshen them, even if the Benois Tzolofchad's husbands wouldn't yarshen them, the Benois Tzolofchad's children will yarshen them. So this is the point that Abba is bringing up. To what point is the Torah makbid on not being Mesav Nachla? In a way, there was already a Hasei the moment the B'nai Tzolofchad were born. There was a little bit of a shift from the Nechasim. Is it me? Oh, it's me. I'm sorry. Oh, now I know why I slept in, because my alarm was set to 6:30. Because I got mixed up with yesterday. Okay, so now I have my answer. Okay, I'm wondering who's letting their alarm from being over here. It's mine. You talk to Gemara. So Amar Abaye, soif, hakam misakre nachlo, mishifta the ima, l'shifta the ab. Now the Rashbam changes the gears a little bit. So let's read the Gemara using the Rashbam's gears. Amar Abaye, soif, hakam misakre nachlo, mishifta the ima, l'shifta the ab. Zok Gemara mimai. Dilma shiny hasam shikfar husam. Maybe if you think about it, when she gets married, right? When she gets married, even though her husband might not yarshin her, but at the end of the day, her children are going to yarshin. But maybe you're not worried. You're not worried because we're not worried about losing the. See, what you have over here is her father's from one shevet and the mother's from another shevet. Even if she marries someone from her own shevet, so that solves the problem with her father's nachla from being transferred, because she married someone from her father's shevet. But her mother's nachla, whatever her mother got from her father, that's going to be transferred, because she could only marry a man from one shevet. She can marry a man from two shvatim. So Frekta is soif hakam is akra nachla mishifta the ima mishifta the abba. The nachla that belonged to her mother, which came from a different chelik, that's going to go to the shevet of her father when she marries somebody from her father's shevet, and when she is yarshin by her son, that will be from another shevet. Maybe the Torah isn't makbid on her mother's chelik, because her mother's chelik, regardless, is going to have to leave her shevet. Because the moment she was born, now she's going to be yarshening it, and she is anyway a hybrid, because her father was from one shevet and their mother from another shevet. So maybe we're not makbid on the nachlo that's from the mother's side. Maybe we're not makbid that there should be in the seba, and therefore, when she marries a man from her father's shevet, now the assets got transferred over completely to that other shevet. The father's nachla, like you said, is taken care of. The mother's nachla ended up being diverted to a different chelik. But since that already happened when she was born, there's no hakpada anymore that she shouldn't get married and it shouldn't go to another shevet, because it's already half changed over anyway. Because the moment she was born, her mother's chelik now goes to her, and she's already half her mother's Shevet and half her father's Shevet. She's a hybrid.
But the transfer is only temporary, isn't it? Until Yovel.
No, not when she Yarshins. When she Yarshins, it's hers forever. Yerusha's forever.
Yerusha, all properties go back. Wasn't that the Taina of Shevet Menashe?
Yerusha means that the earlier generation died, and now it's by the new generation. Who's it going to go back to? Like, even if you say Yerusha goes back, who would it go back to? The person who it's going to go back to died already. That's why the Yerush got it.
Sure, but it doesn't it all. So what is it? What's Pshat in Yovel then? All properties go back to the original where it was.
Purchases.
What?
Purchases go back.
Only purchases and not Yerushas?
That's right. The only time Yerusha goes back by Yovel is if you don't hold a Brera and two brothers split a Nachla. We look at it like they each purchased whatever they have from the other brother. So then it does go back by Yovel. But
yeah, but at one point things were purchased if you go back far enough.
No, if you go back far enough, we got the land from Yeshua. When Yeshua split
right. Yeshua, and he divided it. And Yovel, everything goes back.
There was no purchase. Yeshua's splitting of which Shevet got which land, I don't think that ever went back. Otherwise, every Yovel, there would literally be a whole free-for-all in Klal Yisrael.
That's what happens, I understand. Everything that's what I understand. You're telling me that if something is yarshened by another Shevet, it doesn't go back. That was the whole time of Shevet Menashe. That the Bnei Slefchad would marry out of their Shevet and would belong to somebody else, and Yovel would kick in for that other Shevet.
No, Yovel will not push it back. Yovel does not push it back, and it would be lost from their Shevet forever.
I never understood it that way.
So Moshe probably told him, he's not worried. So how about you guys go marry women from that Shevet? You can get it back.
So hold on a second. So eventually there's going to be all the Shvatim are going to, people from every Shevet are going to own properties in other people's Shevet.
Yeah, I think that's how it's right now.
Yeah, that's how it's right now. But had it not been for the first Chorban, that would have been the case.
No, because as people were marrying women from different Shvatim, if it wasn't happening en masse, because most people have sons and daughters, but people who only had daughters, yes, that in fact did happen. If somebody only had daughters, in fact, his not.
So somebody from Reuven could own property in forever in David Yehuda. You're telling me.
That's right. But a Kodesh Baruch Hu can fix things. A Kodesh Baruch Hu can make it that a later generation, a woman from this Shevet married someone from that Shevet that could go back.
Okay, but in theory, if in theory, it doesn't have to
for all the nachlas to be mixed up in such a way that no one even has their rightful karka. You can literally have a shift where all of Yehuda now is by Binyamin, because they have all daughters.
So why is this only? Why did Shevet Menashe only have that tiny then?
Because that's,
in other words, why doesn't that
would have always been valid? But they brought it up then when Moshe said, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu said that daughters get Yerusha. Up until then, they assume daughters don't get Yerusha.
Yeah. So finally, we have Hilchas Yerusha. Okay, and it was kicked in at that point in time. Before that, there was no Hilchas Yerusha.
That's right. So they didn't have to worry. They thought they would only go to the boys.
Right.
Once they said it's going to go to girls, they said, you know what a mess that's going to make? It's going to mix up all the karka. So Moshe said, for this generation, they should marry their own Shevet.
Why just this generation?
I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. It should really work for every generation.
For that, we need simply pshat chelik beis.
Yeah, okay.
Because it is a simply pshat issue. What's up is the Torah only made it for that generation if the problem would actually be worse in future generations. Because in that generation, there was only one man who had only had girls. But as the generations go on, I'm sure it happened again and again and again.
because there were less people who were inheriting the land, so there's a big chunk going to these girls that he's going to leave.
Uh-huh.
So they keep it
Oh,
here.
so Rabbi Yitzchak is saying a very good point. As the generations continued, everyone got a smaller piece of land because it gets split from father to his two sons, from those to their two sons. So someone getting married, it has a much smaller impact. For a first generation, it had a huge impact. So maybe that's what it is. Oh, that's a very good point. I hear. Okay. So Zok to Gemara, the Dilma Shakar who's below minimum. Maybe you don't say that. Maybe there's a hakpada not to be massive, even the nachla of the mother. So when these below slavchad are ready to get married, even though there's already a seva a little bit, because they're really considered part of their father's shevet, and now they own a property that's from their mother's shevet. It doesn't matter. You still have to protect it further. They still cannot divert further. So how do you fix that? How is it possible to fix that? If they're going to marry someone from their own shevet, so then automatically whatever they ask from their mother is, now they're going to go to their husband and to their son. So how is that fixable? If you hold, we're not concerned, then there's no issue. Because whatever happened already happened, and the nachla is already removed from the daughters of Tzlofcha, from their mother's shevet, and now we're just worried at least to maintain it in their father's shevet. So then by them marrying, the nachla is going to be completely converted from the nachla that originated at Tzlofchad's mother, at Benoy Tzlofchad's mother. It's going to now transfer over to the spouses and the children of the Benoy Tzlofchad that are completely from the shevet of their father. So Gemara the Eitzisabul, the Menasminin law legavra davui mishivta davua v'ime mishivta deima. You know what happens? You maintain that same mix. When they marry, they'll have to marry somebody who has their same ingredients. If her father was from Menashe and their mother was from Zvulun, the men that they have to marry, also the father has to be from Menashe and the mother has to be from Zvulun, so it stays in that same concentration. So that's what Abai is clearing. Is that required or not? Even though it says in the pasuk they should marry somebody from Mishpachas Beis Avia, even though that's what it says, nevertheless it means it has to be from Beis Avia and Beis Ima. That's how specific it has to be. So now finding a shidduch is no longer a needle in a haystack. It's just a needle. Because they'll have to find somebody who was from these two shvatim. Okay. You know, if you know that one shevet had accumulated a lot of land because of these intermarriages, so then you try to find a girl from that shevet who's an only child. Okay, I'm sure in the classified ads in those days they said looking for a girl who's an only child, who's from a shevet that has accumulated a lot of land. Send picture of land. Okay, Zok to Gemara. So
once again, that's a different kind of midos that people would be interested in. Midos of the karka.
Midos toivos.
Midos of the karka.
Good midah bechevels. Okay. Make sure that the perimeter of the property is longer than her waistline, right? Zog to Gemara weiter. If that's the case, the pasuk doesn't say mimishpachas matay imeha. It just says mimishpachas matay avia. So doesn't it seem like the Torah is saying you b'dafka don't need to worry about protecting the same ratio of the two shvatim in the ownership of this property? Zok Gemara couldn't have said that because the Ksiv Hachi had the Torah wrote mimishpachas matay avia v'ima havamina afilu. If I would have thought as long as there's that mix. And there's no emphasis on the father's position. Meaning, if B'nai Shlachad, if their father was from Menashe and their mother was from Zulun, if it just had Matei Aviv Ima, then they could have said, okay, as long as it's half Zvulun, half Menashe. So if I find a boy whose father is from Zvulun and whose mother is from Menashe, maybe that will be good too, as long as it maintains the same mix. Kamashlo, that's what the Torah only said, Mimishpachas Matei Aviv. because that's the main akpoda, that the man they marry is from the same shevet as Tzolofchad was. But as an aside, we also know the Torah means to add on. So Matadir is lavdavka. It also means they have to maintain the same concentration of their mother's family as is in their blood. That's what has to be in the blood of their husbands. Gewaltig. Zog the Heilige Gemara. And once again, now Tosfos learns this whole sugi differently. He actually learns that Abaya was using this to be a raya, in fact, that there must be Yerushas Habal. So he has a whole different shot in the Gemara. So now let's have a look at the next Gemara. And once again, we have an issue with Girsayas. So let me have a look at the Rashbam at the bottom, and we're gonna read the Girsa like the Rashbam did. Tanya Besibas Habain, the Tanya Besibas Habal. And the Rashbam learns, we're gonna learn, there's two psukim with Loisha says that we discussed. There's two psukim with Loisha. One was Velesiz of Nachla, Livnei Yisrael, Mimata El Mate, Ki Ish Benachlas Mate Avoishav, Yidbeku B'nei Yisrael. So I want to just emphasize a couple of words in this passage. Velesiz of Nachla, there's our lav, Livnei Yisrael. It just says Mimata El Mate. It does not say Mimata El Mate Acher, which is the next passage. So I just want to point out the distinctions between the two psukim. It says Mimata El Mate. It says Ki Ish, a man, which the Gemara is going to tell us means a married man, meaning it's referring to a husband. Benachlas Mate Avoshim Yidbeku, a lotion of V'dovak V'ishtoi, also a lotion of marriage. The next pasuk says Velesiz of Nachla Mimata Lamata Acher. It's a much more radical. Mimata Lamata Acher Ki Ish Benachlos Yidbeku. That lotion is similar in the two psukim Matosh B'nei Yisrael. So the Gemara is going to analyze these two psukim, and the Gemara is going to bring brises. So up until now, how did we learn these two psukim? That they're both possibly speaking by a Sebes Habain. All three of them could be speaking by Sebes Habain, because the word concluded, you don't have a raya, you needed to wait to the stories from Pinchas and from Yair. So Tanya B'Sibas Habain, we have one brisa that talks about one pasuk with Sibas Habain, the Tanya B'Sibas Habal, and the other pasuk is B'Sibas Habal. But the two brises present the same set of information in a different way. It says L'Sisav Nachla L'Vnei Yisrael Mimata El Mata. That's B'Sibas Haben Akosav V'Daber. That's speaking about Sibas Haben. Ata Omer B'Sibas Haben. Are you going to say that it's referring to Sibas Haben? Oy Eino Elo B'Sibas Habal. Maybe that pasuk when it says L'Sisav Nachla L'Vnei Yisrael Mimata El Mata, maybe it's referring to the fact that her husband is going to yarshin her, and that's going to divert the land from one shevet to another shevet. Since there's a second pasuk that says acher, harei sebes habal lomar, that's for sure referring to sebes habal, and the Gemara is going to explain why. So basically, what these two verses are saying, you have two psukim, you can't have them both apply to Sebes Haben, or both to Sebes Habal. So one must be Sebes Haben and one must be Sebes Habal, and then we'll just see from the mashmois of each pasuk which is referring to which. So the price that says Mata Mata Acher is more mashma that it's talking about a husband, and the price says Mimat, and the pasuk says Mata Mata is more established speaking about the son. So clearly these brises don't agree with how we learned earlier, where it's possible that everything is referring to Sebes Haben. Okay, so now let's see the brises inside. Tanya. So that was the first brisa which we learned, which was on Amid Beis. Now on Amid Aleph, Tanya Idich, the other brisa says, again, analyzing the same two psukim, coming to the same conclusion, but through a different way. Once again, we're going to look at the girsa of the Rashbam. Tanya Idich, Lo Yisisav Nachla Mimata Lamata Acher, B'Sibas Habal Akosav Medab. Second pasuk which says Acher is talking about Sibas Habal. Al Torah B'Sibas Habal, Oy Eino Elo B'Sibas Haben, Kishu Omer. Since it already has the other pasuk, that already Sibas Haben Omer, Amani Mekayim Mimatal Mat Acher, Sibas Habal Akosav Adab. So those are the two brises. Now, the Gemara assumes that if it says Mimata Al Mata Acher, that's referring to the Baal. If it says Mimata Al Mata, it's referring to Sibas Haben. And the Rashbam tells us as follows. I'm going to slide over here into the Rishbam about 6 lines down in the skinny lines. Usvir l'haitana kidamrina ba'alma d'chalhecha de'ikal midrash darshinon v'loy makminon b'lavi yisem. These Tanoim don't hold like the Tana we learned earlier, that you could say that they're all 3 psukim are referring to Sebes Abed. With Tana Basra, lo svir le hachdrasha to Amar de lekama. Umuki misvora lekra kama b'sibes Abed. The pasuk that says mimata el mata, not mimata el mata acher, that's referring to Sebes Abed. You know why? The karav leit fei mibal. When Yerusha goes from a mother to her son, it's not traveling as far away as if it's going to a husband. So when it's going to her husband, there it's appropriate to say Lasis of Nach will be Mata Lamata Acher, from one Shevet where she's from to a completely different Shevet who her husband's from. But when it's going to her child, there's still some of her in the child. So the pasuk doesn't use Mimata Mata Acher, it just uses Mimata Mata, more subtle lotion. So that's the default. Why the Gemara assumes that when it says Mimata Mata, it's referring to Sebes Haben. And when it says Mimata Mata Acher, it's referring to Sebes Habal. When we take Kach Dr. Shbam, Ayasa Lekra Tinyon, you have the extra pasuk, Lisibes Habal, Kenira, the Einai Ve'ikr. So Zok the Gemara, when we're analyzing these psukim, oh, I didn't even realize that we finished the daf. The Chul Alma Mios, Mimata Lamata Acher is Besibes Habal, Hakos of the daf. Everybody holds that the pasuk that says Mimata Lamata Acher is for sure referring to Sebes Habal. My mashma, how do you know that? So it's 10-7, so we'll stop now, and we'll be Mamshech Bez Hashem tomorrow. It's so nice to see you from Eretz Yisrael and to hear you from Eretz Yisrael. You're on mute, and now it's not in the morning. Now it's already in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice to be in Eretz Yisrael.
Nice. So what besides the I was shocked when you said you actually saw such a truck rolling through with a missile in
Yeah,
Yerushalayim.
yeah.
But what you're saying, they must have picked it up from far away from
Yeah, I
Yerushalayim,
picked it up from
transporting it
somewhere.
through.
I'm speculating it could be that same missile that hit that Arab in the head in Yericho, and they're just
They took his head out of the missile. They should have transported it with the head. Do you hear anything at all in Yerushalayim?
No, nothing. Baruch Hashem, nothing. They're afraid to shoot near here because they're afraid they may hit the Dome of the Rock or their own Alaska or something.
That wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah,
I didn't
for
realize
them
that.
it would be very bad.
They also have a red line.
Yeah.
Listen, all Kleisters should be helped and all the hostages should be freed. And
Amen. Amen.
Enjoy.
Same to you.
If you meet my son by the coast, I'll say hi.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.